And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to tonight's presentation of Cooking with Arash and Shelley. Tonight, there's going to be cooking spring dishes using fresh seasonal ingredients. My name is Franklin. I'm one of the two co-founders of NorCal SCI, also stands for Northern California Spinal Cord Injury Foundation. Once again, we're thrilled to bring Arash and Shelley to you. And as always, it's thanks to generous donors who make these programs possible. So we're grateful to them. In the event that you're wondering, everyone has been muted in order to eliminate any background distractions. But throughout the presentation, I hope that you will feel free to ask any questions, and Shelley and I would gladly field them, and we can actually answer them sort of in real time, hopefully while Arash is doing his cooking. So use the chat feature on your Zoom screen to communicate any questions that you may have, and be happy to take those questions. And then, as always, we are recording these presentations, and we will be sending every registered user, every registrant of tonight's session, a video recording of this thing. And also, as always, Arash has made a commitment to provide recipes of what he's going to be presenting tonight. And so those are going to take probably a day or two. So hopefully by the end of the weekend, we should be able to send you a copy of the video recording as well as Arash's recipes. So without further ado, let's jump in. And if I could quickly introduce Shelley and Arash. Shelley is a lifelong advocate of nutrition. When she isn't working with her patients, she can be found in her greenhouse or kitchen. She obtained her BS in nutritional science from my alma mater, San Jose State University in 2012. And her master's degree in public health in 2016 from the University of New England, and has been working at Santa Clara Valley Medical Center, one of the top spinal cord injury rehab hospitals in the country since 2013. She currently works in the outpatient clinic of the hospital, seeing primarily those individuals with SCI, and also spends time working with complex GI issues in the outpatient gastroenterology clinic, and she is also a member of NorCal SCI's advisory board. Arash experienced his C5, C6 incomplete spinal cord injury in 2012 as a result of a fall, and he has given numerous talks and shared his story of perseverance, recovery, and challenging limits to audiences large and small, including a TEDx talk. He's a Bay Area native, making his home in Walnut Creek, and credits his California upbringing for his love of the outdoors, nature, and cooking activities that he still cherishes as he continues to travel, explore, and enjoy new experiences. He's married with two young, beautiful kids, and is also a director on NorCal SCI's board. So we're happy to have both of them not only be part of our organization, but also really dedicating themselves to provide critical information and solutions to the spinal cord injury community. So Arash, Shelley, take it away, please.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Arash.
Hi, Shelley.
So I have a little cold I'm getting over, and it's actually a cold, right? So, and I understand you have somebody with a cold there. So we're back to colds.
Yeah, I have to apologize in advance. My daughter came home early today from daycare with a fever and no COVID, but she's been home with us all day, and if she pops in or makes herself heard, she will do so. So apologies for the interruptions, but hopefully we can just work through it and she can somewhat behave. So
yeah, and I'll try not to lose my voice.
Yeah. So how do you feel about today?
We got a good plan for tonight, right? It's spring. We got a little rain going on. It's a little gloomy out there. And we're talking about spring ingredients and what you can do with them, right?
It's awesome. I love it. We've had such a dry winter. I'm happy when it rains. Garden's happy. I just planted a bunch of stuff for the summer. And so, yeah, I love it. And I'm very excited about these ingredients and these dishes. I went back and watched. I realized that we did a spring session last year, and my wife caught me. I was going to make something. She's like, I think you made that last year for the spring session. So so thankfully I made sure
quiche?
repeats. But no, it was the strawberry rhubarb compote with mint. That could go with like granola or yogurt or pancakes or waffles. It's so good. I just made it the other day again because I love it so much. But
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you have to get a spreadsheet going and kind of keep track of these things. But honestly, I don't think that anyone's going to get upset if you did strawberry compote again. I remember that. It was delicious.
It's so good and it's so simple. So
what's on our agenda?
So we're gonna do, I thought it'd be kind of fun to do something a little playful. So asparagus is the star because it's a classic spring ingredient. It's the only time of year I eat it. I refuse to get it at the other times of the year. I just don't think it tastes great. So I wait until this time of year when it's local, when it's in the farmers markets, when it's seasonal, and I get it and love it and make it as much as I can and enjoy it until it's gone because it's a short season. So my thought for tonight was like, hey, why don't we do something a little fun? We're going to do almost the same exact ingredients in two very different flavors of dishes. So asparagus will be in both of them. But if you don't like one of the types of dishes, then hopefully you like the other. Hopefully you like both, honestly.
Either way, you're having asparagus.
Say it again.
I said, either way, you're having asparagus.
Yes. So it's like, I think it'd be fun just to highlight asparagus, and then peas are going to be in each of them. One dish will be kind of your normal peas, and then snap peas in the other. So anyway, just something a little bit fun. But I'm going to start with the end first real quick. I'm just going to make one item that we're going to use for a salad at the end, but I want to do it now because it needs to kind of sit and marinate. So this is a fun thing. If you've, I'm going to do like a quick pickled red onion, and it's a fun thing to make if you're like for like Mexican food. If you've had like tacos and like certain styles of Mexican tacos, they often will garnish with pickled red onion, and it's super, super easy to make. It's going to go on the salad today, but I just thought I would share a couple of things about it. So I've got my red onion here, and I thought it'd be a fun opportunity to show a piece of kitchen equipment called a mandolin. This is not something you want to play around with if you have bad hand dexterity. It's a little risky for me to do it anyway because I don't have great hand dexterity. But what it is, it's a pretty common chef's tool. It's something you use to slice something really thin. But I'm just going to show how I do it. I usually don't use it. I use a really sharp knife because I'm safer with the knife. But what I did is someone once gave me a while back an oyster shucking glove. This is what you're wearing if you're like shucking oysters so you don't damage your hand. And so I put this on. It's made with like metal and stuff. So it actually protects me quite a bit from the blade of this very sharp blade that I'm going to use. So if my camera person can come, I'll just show you guys real quick. I'm going to flip this around. So I've got my onion here, and this usually comes with an attachment that's got this little spikes that you can stick on there, and then you're really protected because then you just grab that. But with this onion, it's not really going to work. So I've got my glove on, and I'm going to hold this, and then I just go like that. And you can adjust the blade for different settings for how thick or thin you want it. This is pretty thin, not super, super thin. I kind of wish I did it a little thinner now, but look at that. In like 10 seconds, I've got some nicely sliced red onion. I can take this off. I'm done. I can put this away.
Are you crying yet?
Right here. So I've got this nicely sliced red onion, and all I'm going to do is add some vinegar to it. I'm going to use apple cider vinegar because we have a lot of it and I like it. You could use red wine vinegar, white wine vinegar. It's got a little in my eyes, the onions there. Apple cider vinegar works. You don't want to pickle with things like balsamic vinegar or like flavored vinegars that someone gave you as like a fancy gift. So and what I usually do is about half part vinegar and half part water and a pinch of salt. And that's about it. And so I'm estimating, obviously, I know how to do this. I want just enough liquid to cover the onions. And guys, this is like so simple, but it's so, so, so good. And it adds like such a nice touch to like anything you're making. So that's all I did. I got my vinegar and my water. I just want enough liquid to like cover the onions.
And you put just like a couple little small scoops of salt in there.
I just did, yeah, I did like a couple small scoops. It's probably about a half a teaspoon or something, pretty small amount, just a little bit. And of course you could skip it too. So I'm just gonna let that sit and marinate. And now I wish I cut it a little thinner, but it's okay, it'll still work. And okay, so that's done. Fun thing you'll see at the end, how nicely it'll add to our salad that we're gonna make. So shall we jump into our 2 times 2 dishes with same ingredients deal?
Choose your ending, right? Is that what those books were?
Yeah, choose your own adventure. There you go. So I've got some asparagus here. I can't believe it only took me until recently to learn this, but I did only learn this recently, that the best way to store asparagus is in a little bit of water in like a glass with like an inch of water and then like a plastic bag over it in the fridge. So I actually got these a few days ago at the farmer's market and they still look really, really fantastic. So I just wanted to show you guys that. So I've got my nice bunch of asparagus. And so for dish 1, I've got asparagus and just some mushrooms, some peas. These are just frozen peas from the freezer that I thawed out. And then it's going to get a little bit of parsley and Parmesan later. It's going to be a pasta toss. So it's just asparagus, mushrooms, and peas. For dish number 2, it's going to be asparagus, mushrooms, shiitake mushrooms, and peas, snap peas. So 2 kind of different versions of the ingredients going in 2 totally different directions. So I talked about this last year on the spring session with asparagus. It's really, really easy. All I'm gonna do, you wanna cut off the bottom kind of 1/4 to 1/3, because those are just tough stems and not really worth keeping. So I cut those off, and then I'm gonna use half for one and half for the other. I kind of like keeping the tips, you know, kind of together. I like the way they look. So I like kind of keeping the tips as bigger pieces, but for the rest, I'm just going to, let's see, this is a big bunch. So I'm going to cut them into smaller pieces, just like that. And I love asparagus, you guys. It's so good. It's
too.
Such a unique flavor and vegetable. And if you really like it like me, a great thing you can do is you can keep those stems that you cut off. I usually do this, I didn't right now, and put them in a bag in the freezer. And then if you're ever making like vegetable stock, you can have that. So so I'm gonna get my frying pan going. I've got my asparagus. I'm gonna split this in half, get a couple things set up to get our pasta toss for the first dish. Shelley, can I pass it to you for where you want to take the conversation?
So I'm going to back up a little since you started with onions. We're going to talk a little bit about sulfur today. That's kind of like a spring theme with some of these things. So onions, super helpful. He's pickling some raw onions. Raw and cooked onions are both super beneficial. They're super rich in vitamin C. They have a lot of antioxidants, sulfur compounds. Raw onions have a higher level of the sulfur compounds, and the sulfur compounds in raw onions have been studied for their potential to protect against cancer, elevated blood sugar, and for cholesterol reduction. So raw onions are, they're painful to chop up. They make you cry. We're having a guest appearance here. But they're super healthy. And asparagus is the theme of this discussion tonight. So I just want to say it's a member of the lily family, and that is my daughter's name. So I'm pretty partial to any member of the lily family. It comes in a variety of colors. I don't know if you've seen this, but asparagus comes in white and purple. It's also green, like Arash is. Really low in calories, high in essential vitamins and minerals. half a cup of asparagus is only 20 calories, but those 20 calories, that half cup provides 12% of vitamin C, 18% of vitamin A, and 34% of folate, which is used to form red blood cells. So it's really important, especially if you're struggling with anemia and that kind of thing. So a little more folate in your diet is good. Also of note, it provides about 57% of vitamin K. So if you are on blood thinners, you don't normally eat asparagus or high vitamin K foods, don't go crazy with asparagus unless you talk to your doctor. And generally the rule of thumb now is to have your doctor titrate your blood thinners to the vitamin K that you have in your diet. So don't go spring crazy and have a ton of asparagus unless you let your doctor know you are. Also, it's packed with antioxidants, which helps prevent the buildup of harmful free radicals and helps reduce the risk for certain chronic disease like heart disease. They're not only found in asparagus, though, so we always talk about a wide and colorful variety of fruits and veggies. So if you do that, then you get a ton of antioxidants from your diet. Now, Arash, if you want to jump in anytime, just put up your finger or something, okay? I'm going to keep going.
No worries. I heated up my pan. I'm going to start sauteing my asparagus, mushrooms. I'm going to wait a little bit for the peas, but that's all I'm going to do. Nothing crazy. This is great. You can take
Awesome. Okay, yeah. So we can't talk about asparagus without talking about the elephant in the room, right? So it is, yeah, asparagus pea. So got to bring it up because we don't talk about asparagus much. If you only cook with asparagus in the spring, and I kind of do it a little bit more often than that, but it's a fascinating topic. And I'm sure if you haven't heard me talk about this before, you're pretty curious. But the culprit in asparagus that causes this is called asparagusic acid, and it's found only in asparagus. And when asparagus is digested, the acid gets broken down into sulfur-containing byproducts. Sulfur generally is not a good smell. I don't know if you've ever been to a place that produces sulfur. We have hot springs and things like that, and they don't smell good. But so it's one of those smells. And it's a smell that ends up in the urine. It's a sulfur byproduct. It evaporates immediately. And what is interesting, though, about it is that only 20 to 50%, that's 50% of people notice it. The reasons that everybody digests their food differently, and some people break down those sulfur byproducts better than others. And there's another interesting fact. Some people completely lack the ability just to smell the sulfur because they have a unique genetic predisposition to where they just can't smell it, but it's there. So either you have asparagus pea, you don't have asparagus pea because you break down the sulfur byproducts, or you can't smell asparagus pea. So it's pretty funny. Anyways, so I want to talk about cooking to increase your nutrients. Since we're always talking about increasing vegetables in meals, there's a difference in nutrients when it comes to cooking or eating them raw. Cooking helps us digest certain foods better without having to spend a huge amount of energy. It softens food, it breaks down the cellulose fiber that's hard for our teeth and our digestive system to process. It's good to note that vegetables like carrots, spinach, mushrooms, asparagus is one of them, cabbage and peppers are several veggies that actually increase their antioxidant property when you cook them. So gently sauteing them, boiling them, being real gentle with them is ideal for certain vegetables to actually release antioxidants and give you more of a health boost. But deep frying foods or like really frying foods in hot oils, I'm losing my voice too. It increases free radicals. So we talk about which oils are safer to cook with. If you're frying your vegetables, it releases free radicals from the oil that's oxidizing in the high temperature, and it completely destroys nutrients that way. And it kind of raises your risk for cancer as well. So the one downside is vitamin C. Vitamin C is really sensitive and it can decline by up to 10% when you cook it because it's super unstable. So the bottom line, just eat your fruits and vegetables cooked raw, but just know that if you cook some veggies, you're getting more nutrition out of them. If you eat them raw, you're getting more nutrition, but don't overthink it. Just eat them.
I'm at perfect timing. I'm going to jump in real quick and update you guys. So I just sauteed my asparagus and mushrooms in a little bit of olive oil, and then I added a garlic a few minutes later. I don't want my garlic to burn. That's why I didn't add it at the beginning. And then I'm going to add another element to make this pasta really tasty is some lemon zest. So this is a microplane. It's kind of often used for like grating Parmesan cheese or another kind of like hard cheese, which I'm going to do later too. But it's a really great tool for zesting a lemon. And if you don't know what that means, it just means using the skin of the lemon. So what you want to do is when you do it, you don't want to do too much in any one spot, because if you get the white part of the skin, it's really bitter. So all I do is I just go like swipe, and then you see how there's just when you start seeing that, then I turn the lemon, and then I turn it, and then I turn it, and I try to kind of cover all over, get all of the skin, but I don't go too deep, because if I get too much of that white stuff, it's going to taste really bitter and not good. So I just keep going around. And this is the reason you use zest, let's say, instead of juice. Oftentimes you use both, and you could, but zest is really nice because it has a really intense lemony flavor, and there's no liquid, so it's not going to be like acidic or change like the components of your food. So see, I got most of that off, and now I've got some on my cutting board and some on the back of my grater. So I've got all this nice zest. I'm going to just add that into my mixture. And the other thing I wanted to share that's very, very, very useful anytime you're making any pasta of any kind. This is like Italian grandma secret, but it's true. And I learned it when I used to work and live in Italy. Pasta water. This is your friend. Anytime you cook pasta, keep some of the water. You see how cloudy that is? All that is just some of the starch from the pasta. And I added a little bit of salt to the boiling water of the pasta. That's, as you probably should anytime you're making pasta. But I always, before I drain the pasta, I always grab my measuring cup and I scoop about a cup's worth of pasta water, because I'll know I'll be able to use it. This is such an underrated and underappreciated ingredient anytime you're making a pasta. And the pasta we're making today is just a very simple toss. So it's not like super saucy or anything. This is honestly my favorite way of eating pastas these days, is just toss the pasta in with a bunch of tasty stuff. So now I just added my peas. Those were just fresh frozen peas that I thawed, and those only take a minute or two to cook. So I added the pasta water because my pan was looking a little dry. I wanted a little bit of liquid, but I definitely want to keep some for when I add the pasta, because it's going to help me give it like a sauciness. So now that that's going, I'm going to grab my pasta, which I already cooked ahead of time, so it's ready to go. And then I'm going to toss it in and start tossing everything together. Add a little bit of I'm going to chop up my parsley that I have. You can use any fresh herb you like. I just have parsley because I have some in the garden and it goes well with this. And then, yeah, I can pass it back to you, Shelley, while I'm doing that.
Okay, so this is a good time to chat about either mushrooms or peas. So I think I'll go with mushrooms. I love putting notes together for these because they keep me in touch with current research and things that are coming out nutrition-wise. So mushrooms, I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but mushrooms can be very helpful to get vitamin D. They're one of the real rare foods that we can consume that will help us with our vitamin D level. Going into spring now, I'm hoping that we can get outside a little bit more, but a lot of folks in the spinal cord community are deficient in vitamin D, indoors all the time. Vitamin D is linked to multiple health problems, and a lot of my patients are on vitamin D. I'm on vitamin D as well. It's really important because it helps your body to absorb the calcium in the foods that you're eating efficiently. You need vitamin D and calcium For strong bones, vitamin D is really important for muscle function, reducing fall risk in the elderlies and breaks, may help protect against some cancer, cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative disease, diabetes. It's studied really extensively. There are two main forms of vitamin D. Vitamin D2 is found in fungi, and yeast. And then the other form is vitamin D3, which is found in animals. Most of your vitamin D has to come from safe sun exposure. It's the most efficient way for us to absorb vitamin D is from the sun, or you can take a supplement, and very few foods provide this vitamin, but mushrooms can be really helpful in your diet if they are processed and exposed to a source of ultraviolet radiation when they're processed, like from the sun or with a UV lamp. Most common form of vitamin D in mushrooms is the variety that's vitamin D2, which is ergocalciferol. If they're exposed to UV light, the level of vitamin D slowly decreases as they're stored afterwards. So when you buy mushrooms, try to use them up right away if you can for maximum impact. If you consume mushrooms exposed to UV light and consume them right away, 100 grams of them would provide about 50 to 100% of the daily required vitamin D that most people need. Also, you can expose your dried mushrooms to UV light to generate nutritionally useful amounts of vitamin D2, but I mean, I don't know who's going to expose their vitamins or their mushrooms to UV light, but you never know. But current research says that that's an option that you can do. If you have a UV light, stick your mushrooms under there. In researching how to find mushrooms that have been exposed to UV, the brand Monterey Mushrooms popped up. And Monterey Mushrooms is one of the big brands that I often see in the grocery stores. It's a common brand, and they say that they do process and expose their mushrooms to UV light. So you and I think their packaging says that, but just read the packages on the mushrooms if you have them, if you buy them in packages, and there may be information on whether or not the mushrooms were exposed to UV light. So common practice was for mushroom producers to store their mushrooms in dark storage, because if you expose mushrooms to UV light for too long, it changes the color of them, and some consumers might not like that too much, but it's definitely something to look for, especially if you run on the deficient side of vitamin D. So what are we doing now?
So perfect timing. The pasta's pretty much done. All I did was throw in some fresh chopped parsley, a little bit of grated Parmesan, and I wanted to use my pasta water, so I added all of it in, and it just gives it a little like creaminess. And really, this is beautiful. It smells fantastic, and I'm just, if I were serving this to like some friends or something, I would just highlight the use of lemons, and I would just kind of do a little something like that.
Vitamin C.
And there you go. This is done. That's a nice
beautiful
little pasta toss, little spring pasta toss. And on the note of the mushrooms, I know I used normal kind of white mushrooms, but spring is a time for seasonal mushrooms. Mushrooms don't like heat. They do well in kind of spring and fall, especially, and a little bit in winter too. So I just use kind of regular mushrooms, but if you're out and about, or if you have like a farmer's market and you get some fresh mushrooms, it's a really great time. Some of the ones that are out often are chanterelle mushrooms, oyster mushrooms, trumpet mushrooms. I've got a guy at the farmer's market that we go to that always has a variety of different mushrooms available. So I just use these for the sake of ease, but it is a spring ingredient, really. So really enjoy it now. And if you can get your hands on any kind of fresh mushroom, you won't regret it, because it's so good. So I'm going to just describe, we're going to transition right into our next dish.
Perfect.
Which, again, same-ish ingredients, asparagus, peas, and mushrooms. But this time, I'm going to use a different mushroom, and I want to show you guys what I did. So these are dried shiitake mushrooms. This is a pantry item that I like to keep. And you can, of course, get shiitake mushrooms at the store. They're usually available year round. I love shiitake mushrooms for like more Asian style dishes. You could also just use them for the same pasta. That's totally fine. But I like having these on hand because if I don't have anything in the fridge, if I forgot to go shopping, if I'm trying to throw together like a quick dinner, I can use these in place of like a fresh mushroom. And these you can often get at like an Asian market. That's where I usually get mine, and they're so tasty. So all you have to do when you have any kind of dried mushroom, but these especially, is you just put them in a bowl, and usually you can just cover them in water. If you have more time, you can use like warm water, room temperature water. But if you want to do it faster, boiling water. So I just boil some water. I cover the mushrooms with boiling water, and they soften up. And I chopped most of them up. But the one thing I wanted to show you guys, I kept wanting to show you, is that the little stem in here can be really, really tough. So when you use dried mushrooms like I am, you definitely want to cut the stem out. So what I do is I kind of cut one side, and I use my knife, or I could use my fingers to just kind of pull out the stem. So you ordinarily, sometimes you can keep the stem, sometimes you don't have to. But in this case, I cut the stem out. And honestly, in a lot of cuisines in Southeast Asia, they prefer the dried mushrooms to even fresh shiitakes because the flavor is almost a little more intense. And another cool thing you can do, which I often do, is that the liquid that the mushrooms were soaking in, that mushroom water, is full of flavor. So if I'm making it's a really, really tasty ingredient to use. So we talked about pasta water. Now we're talking about mushroom liquid. We're really getting
I think you cut out for a second. What do you do with the water again?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the water that the mushrooms were soaking, you can use that as part of your dish. You can add it to your dish to get some mushroomy flavor.
So to your pasta dishes, to soups, to your pasta things like
dish,
that.
to a soup, to a stir fry. Yeah, you can. What I would do is I would use the mushrooms, keep the water, and if my dish is like, I don't know, this might need a little something, I might use that.
There it is. Yeah.
So I've got my mushrooms. I've got my snap peas. Up until a week or two ago, I had these growing in my garden, but they had to get pulled out. They were done. So I did actually buy these from the store, but these are in season now. Again, I know it's something you can get year round, but they're so much better when you get them in season. And I've got garlic again, and I've got my pan heating. And this time, instead of, an Italian style pasta, we're gonna make a pasta toss, a noodle toss with the same ingredients: mushrooms, peas, and asparagus, which I put somewhere. And for the noodles, I'm gonna use soba noodles. I cooked these ahead of time. So this is a Japanese buckwheat noodle. I really like it because it has a really nice flavor. It's also really good for you, made out of buckwheat. But you can use any noodle you want. Don't feel limited. You can use an udon noodle, ramen noodle, chow mein noodle, egg noodle. You can even just use like a linguine or spaghetti out of, like an Italian style. It doesn't matter. Just use whatever noodle you want. So I've got my pan hot here. Since I'm going with a different flavor, I'm not going to use olive oil. I'm going to use just vegetable oil. And I'm going to basically just do the same thing. I'm going to cook my asparagus, my snap peas, and my mushrooms in the pan. Just a little bit of seasoning, not much, because I'm going to make a sauce to go with my noodle toss. So I can pass it back to you, Shelley.
So I want to talk about peas because we haven't yet. And they are beautifully featured in both of these dishes. I love them. They're a spring ingredient. A lot of people might have given peas a bad rap. I don't know about you, but I kind of grew up in a household where the frozen peas were microwaved, steamed, boiled to mush. Very reminiscent of my my early baby days, but they're a fantastic spring staple. They have a ton of nutrition, including protein. They're also known as garden peas. They come from pods produced by the Pisum sativum plant. They're not vegetables, but they're part of the legume family, a family of plants that produces pods with seeds inside of them. They have brothers and sisters that you know very well, and their brothers and sisters are lentils, chickpeas, beans, and peanuts. There's more, but green peas are usually cooked and sold as a vegetable. They're considered a starch because they're high in complex carbs. Like other starchy vegetables include potatoes and corn. Snap and snow peas are other varieties. I like that you're using 2 different varieties of peas in this. This is great. Half a cup of peas will provide 4 grams of protein, 34% of vitamin A, 24% of vitamin K, and many other nutrients, but those are the most notable ones. In comparison, half a cup of carrots provides a gram of protein versus the 4 from peas. So adding peas for their protein value is smart, especially if you follow a plant-based diet. In contrast, an egg, 1 egg's about 7 grams of protein. So peas are more than half of that. They're definitely a good option. Arash and I talk a lot about protein unless you have some kind of wound or other medical issue going on. Chances are you really don't need as much protein as you think you do. And I like to keep reminding people that it's not as much protein as you think. Especially if you eat plant-based and you get a good variety, but peas fit really comfortably well into a plant-based diet. Half a cup provides 4 grams of fiber too. And general fiber recommendations for those with spinal cord injuries are 25 to 35 grams a day. And in working for almost 9 years with the community, I can say that most people get probably 15 grams of fiber or less. It is often overlooked, and I'm constantly trying to get people to eat more. So peas are really great source of fiber. And it's really easy to get enough fiber by not only adding them to your diet, but by eating an abundance of fruit, vegetable, whole grain. You get a lot of fiber from all of that, and it's really beneficial for a good bowel program. It helps control blood sugar, either whether you're diabetic or not. It helps remove cholesterol from the body. It keeps you full and satisfied. And it means that if you're getting a high fiber diet, it means you're getting a ton of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants also. So win-win. So I love that peas are featured right now, and I think they're fantastic. They're a powerhouse food, I think. All right, we got sauce.
Let me show you guys what we've been up to. So I just sauteed up my vegetables a little bit. It's the snap peas, mushrooms, and asparagus with a little bit of garlic. Again, I just gave it a tiny pinch of salt, nothing else, but it's going to get a lot more flavor later on. And I just want these to cook a little bit. I'm actually you could serve this warm or cold. I'm actually making this with the intention of having it for like lunch tomorrow, because this is also a noodle that goes really, really well as like a salad. So a really great lunch option. And I just made a quick little dressing. So what I did is I used some soy sauce, rice vinegar. This is a nice vinegar anytime you're making like an Asian style sauce or anything. I had a little bit of agave for a little bit of sweetness. You could use honey as well. And then this is a fun ingredient, totally optional. This is called Gochujang. It's a Korean chili paste. It usually comes like this, and this is how I usually buy it, in this big thing. If you've eaten Korean food, if you've had like bibimbap or Korean barbecue, you've eaten this. It's not super spicy, but it has a really nice flavor. It's got like a lot of depth to it. It's not super spicy, but I found it in a tube, which is kind of nice. So I can just use a little tiny bit so as to not make it too spicy. This is optional. It's only if you like it. If you don't have it or you can't find it, you could use sriracha. You could use any kind of chili sauce you like, or if you don't want the spiciness, you can just skip it all together. So I just kind of whisked that all together with a little bit of sesame oil, and that's about it. And that's going to be my dressing for this whole thing. So I've got that ready to go. My veggies are looking real nice. And I just want to get a little more color on those. And I've got my noodles, and then a little nice optional ingredient as well. These are some toasted sesame seeds. So I like to just sprinkle those on maybe at the end as well. And where are my tongs? Here they are. So this is, you could, like I said, you could make this warm and have it for dinner. You could have it room temperature or cold. Like I said, I'm going to be making this with the intention of making it for like a noodle salad for tomorrow. So I'm going to taste. This is great. It's done. So I'm going to take that, add it right to my bowl with the noodles.
That's awesome.
And then
I love this for lunch. This is an amazing idea
it's
for
so good.
a portable lunch.
Totally. And if you go to like places like, you know, some of the places where you have like ready-made salads or something like Whole Foods or whatever, they'll often have like a soba noodle salad. And they're fine, but it's so much better when you make it from home at home. And it's so much more cost effective. This is like the cost to all this is like nothing versus like how much you'd have to pay. And you can put anything you want in this, guys. If you like edamame, you could put edamame. If there's a vegetable you do like or don't like, if you're a meat eater and you want to add some meat to it, that's fine. If you have like hard-boiled eggs or something, you want to add that on top, or tofu, or really whatever you want. I like to keep it simple and just have veggies and the noodles.
This would be great with tempeh or something like that too.
Totally. Yeah, it would be really tasty no matter what. But this is just beautiful. And the last kind of ingredient to finish it off, I forgot to grab it, but you could add some chopped up cilantro or green onions, scallions.
Peanuts.
But peanuts, yeah. And so check this out. If you were, you know, this is actually like perfectly dressed too. Sometimes I underdress it. And I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit more of these toasted sesame seeds on top. So,
oh my gosh.
How beautiful is that? Really nice, super easy, ready to go. And that's lunch for like the next couple days for 2 or 3 of us, you know? So all this food, how quick. So we've got our Italian pasta toss ready to go. We've got our kind of Asian style noodle salad ready to go, both with asparagus as the stars of the show. And
peas.
Good. And the what?
And peas.
And peas, yeah, of course. We've got our green peas in there, our snap peas here. And then we're just gonna make one more kind of spring inspired salad. But let me pass it back to you, Shelley, before.
I'm out of notes.
You're out
I was going to talk about cheese a little bit, but I don't feel like it fits in very well with the spring theme right now. I'm thinking I'll save my notes about cheese for another day, but I'm excited about all of this. It's given me ideas on lunches, things that I can pack and bring. I mean, I do talk to a lot of my patients out and about, going to appointments, going here and there, and a lot of them just don't have ideas on what to bring with them when they go out on you know, go to wherever they're going all day long. And so fast food is oftentimes, you know, what they pick up, and so these are like fantastic. All you need is a little ice chest and like a portable block of ice or something, and you can bring these salads with you, or the pastas. The other pasta that you made could be eaten cold too, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we eat it cold often. I mean, that's the beauty. I always try to encourage everybody, you know, make something that you like and make a lot of it, and then just eat it for the next couple of days. It's so much more economical than eating out, you guys.
Absolutely, and so much healthier too.
I again, I can do like the quick numbers in my head, but like that pasta, even with like the best asparagus from the farmer's market, it's, you know, not cheap. It's like $6 for a bunch, that entire bunch. But what did I do? I used that whole bunch, 2 dishes, pasta, noodles, other veggies. I mean, we're talking, you know, $5 maybe for each of those big pots of food, each bowl and pot. We're talking
it's like 8 to 10 meals, right? Like for
yeah, we're talking easily, you know, 4 people could eat that pasta. 4 people could eat that. You're exactly right. 8 to 10 meals. Exactly right. So do the math, guys. We're talking $10, give or take. That's just rough numbers. Feeding 8 meals. We're talking $1.25 a meal. So please don't tell me that
prep.
Yeah, don't tell me that like healthy eating is expensive. Yes, it takes a little bit of time, but again, I'm trying to keep it as simple as I can, showing you minimal prep, minimal hard to find ingredients, and you can eat a super healthy, great meal for $1.25. You can't find that anywhere. No, hands down.
You can maximize your nutrition intake and improve your bowel program and reduce your risk for cardiovascular disease, which is the #1 risk factor with spinal cord injuries. So, I mean, a little food prep goes a really, really, really long way. Like, this is insurance.
And that's the theme that you and I always talk about, Shelley. So I'm glad we're able to hammer that point home again, because it really just is, it's so important and we've talked about this many, many times. The reason I came to eating this way was because of spinal cord injury, bowel program, all of that. Like, all of that and all of my digestion is so much better now because of the way eating like this. And I can eat pasta, I can eat, noodles. I don't have to be scared of carbs. How some people just have this insane fear of any kind of carbohydrate. I can do that and have a great bowel program and keep my weight in check and keep my body feeling great, so.
Yeah, and I have to say, Arash and I just celebrated 2 years since our very first phone conversation. Right. Franklin connected us and we talked on the phone, and he told me all these things, and I thought, my gosh, there's just so much that we need to teach people in the community about nutrition. And so that started a conversation, and it just kind of like, this is where we are now. And
you really just thought, who is this nut job?
Turned into a love fest, huh?
Love fest.
Hey, actually, I want to ask both of you a question that we have talked about recently, is the organic versus non-organic, the trade-offs. We had talked about the nutritional value, the safety value, as well as, the cost differential. Would you like to sort of address that?
Can I real quick describe something?
Absolutely, at your convenience, yeah.
And then Shelley can talk, and I can add in my thoughts as well.
Yeah.
But I just want to share the last thing I'm going to make today, which is simple but really, really nice. It's a spring salad, because we're using a couple of great spring ingredients. This is fresh arugula. This is in season right now as well. Really nice time to use your fresh salad greens. So I've got some baby arugula here, and I'm going to make a nice salad with that and some strawberries. And if you think fruit doesn't belong in a salad, let me convince you otherwise. It's so, so nice to have a fruit element sometimes in a salad, especially when you balance it with something peppery like arugula. If you don't like arugula, you could always just use like spinach or any other green you like. But I really like the balance of arugula because it's kind of peppery and spicy. Sweet strawberries. I've got some pistachios here that I'm going to use. I've got a little bit of fresh mint from the garden because I love that kind of herbaceous kind of addition, and a little bit of feta cheese, which I know Shelley's going to talk about too. So the combo of like the salty, creamy cheese with the sweet strawberry, with the crunchy pistachios, the herbs, the arugula, and one other ingredient, which is also a spring ingredient, which is cauliflower. And again, cauliflower, I know it's become a trendy ingredient. You can buy it anytime, but it really is a winter, spring ingredient. It doesn't grow well in the summer. It's not a heat-loving vegetable. So if you're getting your hands on cauliflower, get it now while it's in the farmer's market or at your store. I know at the farmer's market near us, they have purple, yellow, orange, and white cauliflower, like all different colors. And so all I did was roast this ahead of time. This is a half of a head of cauliflower. I just roasted it in the oven. I didn't do anything else to it. Just roasted it in the oven at 400 degrees until it got kind of blackened and nice. So my cauliflower is ready, and I'm going to cut up my strawberries and kind of get everything together and start assembling my salad. I'll show you guys how I put it together at the end, but now I can pass it back to Shelley to talk about the organic and whatever else.
Yeah. So, well, I'll start and I'll be really brief about pesticides and organics. This topic is really, really muddy, and pun intended there, but it is very difficult to have a definitive answer whether or not you should eat organic or not. Like, there's really good arguments. My population that I work with, I work for the county. I will get a blank stare if I say, buy everything organic, eat everything organic. And there is some argument to say that, yes, certain fruits and vegetables have higher pesticide concentrations, but there's a couple of organizations out there that are funded very heavily by agricultural companies that make their money selling organic food. And so there's a little bit of bias in some of those things. And so basically my rule of thumb is, if you can afford to buy organic at the grocery store, do it. You know, I mean, there's something to be said about limiting pesticides. It's probably better for you. I don't want to say you have to eat organic or else, because it might hinder your amount of fruits and vegetables and whole grains that you eat. So if you struggle with income, do the best that you can. Wash your produce as well as you possibly can. But I would rather see you eat a rainbow of produce in however way you can afford it, and just wash it, keep it clean, than think, well, I'm just going to go to Jack in the Box because I can't afford any organic food, you know, so forget it. I'm just going to eat this way instead. Another thing to note that Arash pointed out in a recent conversation that I want to mention is, if you go to the farmer's market, and we keep plugging the farmer's market because we both love the farmer's market, and if you go there, chances are really good that the farmers that are bringing the fruits and vegetables to the farmer's market are using organic practices, because to certify your produce as USDA organic, you know, the symbol that you see on everything, it's super expensive, and a lot of farmers cannot afford to get certified. It requires a lot of testing. It requires a lot of manpower, a lot of effort. That's beautiful. And so they can't afford it. So what I'm saying is, go to the farmer's market, ask the farmer, is your stuff organic? What kind of practices do you use? That is gorgeous. And most of them will say, no, I don't use pesticides. I do this, 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 and this. And, you know, so that, oh my goodness, that's so distracting. I can't even think about anything else right now.
Sorry. And I might have to.
I'm easily distracted with food and color.
In a moment, I might have to relieve my camera person. So let me turn this back around, and then I'm glad I can show you guys the salad one more time in a moment, but you got to see a little bit of what I was doing.
Gorgeous.
Sorry to interrupt, Shelley.
No, you didn't. You didn't. I was just telling everybody that I just eat as healthy as you can afford to eat. Follow, you know, some of the things that we talk about as best as you can. If you can afford organic at the grocery store, go for it. It's better. But if you can't, then do the best you can, you know, but don't not eat fruits and vegetables because they're not organic. Just wash them, or go to the farmer's market, have a conversation with the farmers, basically.
And I feel like this is something we talk about a lot, and that's great. And I reiterate everything you say, Shelley. And I think the easy thing to do is, if you're at the store, then just compare, you know, or start paying a little bit of attention. You know, if something's only a little bit more in cost for the organic and you can get it, then get it, you know, if you can. And if it's double or triple the price, then, you know, that's okay. You can skip it. I think you're totally right, Shelley, that the idea of getting people to eat more fruits and vegetables is ultimately the goal. And if you can do that, you know, conventional produce or organic produce, that's really the bigger thing. But if you can't afford to get it, go ahead.
Yeah, and another thought. So we are always advocating for plant-based diet. Plant-based meaning 90% of what you eat coming from plants, and the rest coming from whatever else, you know, chicken, fish, anything else like cheese. The meat right now is insanely expensive. So if you break it down and you okay, instead of having chicken and meat, you know, 5 times or 6 times this week, I'm going to try and go for more plant-based options and buy all organic. And I'm thinking you might come out ahead maybe right now, the way things are.
Totally. I love that in the last few weeks, with all the prices of everything, when they say, you know, meat's so expensive, I'm like, well, I don't have to worry about it. And the thing I get a little fired up on, and I think I've mentioned this a few times in our sessions, is I get fired up when people say, oh, it's so expensive to eat healthy. It's not. It might be a little bit time consuming. For sure, it's more time consuming than taking something out of a freezer or out of a bag and heating it up, of course. But if you're talking about, you know, eating healthy, eating, you know, more fruits and vegetables, that's what I try to do in all of these sessions, is show you guys it doesn't take that much, and there's things you can do and steps you can skip and make things easier. And I try to highlight all of that. But back to your point of organic versus non-Shelley, you know, yeah, like do whatever you're able to do, you know, for your budget and your cost. But remember, if you're thinking, oh my God, this is expensive, I just gave you guys the math on the meals we just made. It's you can afford to buy maybe certain things and maybe not others. That's okay. Do whatever's most comfortable for your family.
Yeah. Invest in your health too. I mean, a lot of people don't think about nutrition in terms of investing in your body. And they tend to like go cheap, you know, go completely cheap on the things that they eat. But think about, you're putting these things into your body, and this is going to affect your future. You know, it's affecting your life now and your future, your bowel program. Like the time you spend doing your bowel program is I mean, time is money, right? I mean, it's worth it to invest. You invest in other things, you know, like outside of nutrition, but not your own, like what you're ingesting. And so it's like a mindset to think about.
Totally agree. Yeah, if we're talking about medications you might have to take, or future doctor's bills or co-pays or whatever it is, just think, if you make some changes, small changes to your dietary habits, and you implement them regularly, think of how big of an impact that can have in a year, 2, 3, 4. I know it's hard. We're not conditioned to think long term. But if you think, man, if I go to the doctor less in 2 or 3 years, or I spend less time, you know, doing my bowel routine or whatever it is, that's money saved right there. So let me bring it back to the food real quick, because I want to show you guys the final product. All I did was I made a simple dressing with some mustard, a little bit of red wine vinegar, salt, pepper, and olive oil. That's it. And I like the mustard because, again, I like the combo of something that's got a little bit of a bite to combine.
Is that stone ground? What kind of mustard
do you
prefer?
This is Trader Joe's. I really like this one. It's an aioli garlic mustard.
Oh, I've had that one. That's good.
It's really good. I kind of always have to have it on hand because it's my favorite for dressing, because also I love garlic. And so if I don't have time to put garlic, or
it's in there.
It's in there. And it's a nice balanced mustard. It's not too spicy. It's not too, you know, mustardy, if you will. It's just really, really nice. So I just did about a teaspoon of this. And as we always say, don't worry, I'll send the recipes, but I just made my dressing, and you guys saw my salad. I'll turn the camera around one more time to show you this final product, but this is my pickled onions from earlier and everything. Let's just spin the camera around one more time to show you. There's my salad. I mean, how colorful and beautiful. We've got our cauliflower, mint, our feta, strawberries, pickled red onions, and the toasted pistachios are in there with my dressing here ready to go. So that's a nice hearty salad.
Are you having that with your Italian pasta dish that you made?
I think so. Yeah, I think we're keeping the noodles, I think, like I said, for lunch. And then we'll have the pasta and the salad for dinner tonight.
That's going to go really well together, I think.
Yeah. And this is great. As usual, we're right on time. I'm happy to stay on for any more questions or conversation, but this is so fun always.
Very good. But remarkably, we didn't have any questions from the general audience, so we'll leave it at that.
Must have answered them all as we went.
Yes, unless they were just completely overwhelmed. But
oh,
it's okay. So Pamela is asking about desserts. I don't know, Pamela, how we can do spring ingredients, but desserts, but I'll leave it to the experts. So what do you think, Arash?
Yes. Again, if you're talking about season, oh, sorry, Shelley, go ahead.
I feel like I'm going to speak like for you right now, but like season. So what fruits are in season right now? Citrus is a good one. We're coming out of that, but we have an orange tree, and just reframe your thought of what is dessert. Dessert is generally sweet, right? Sweet is fruit, and fruit has fiber, so and all kinds of nutrients. So I would just go with whatever fruit is in season, chop it up.
So berries, also berries?
Yeah, berries, other berries are starting to come in. And again, this is locally or at the farmer's market. But strawberries are really at their peak in kind of April, May, you know, even into the summer. Strawberries is kind of like what I say about tomatoes. I don't really buy them the other time of year because I just don't think they taste very good when you buy them in the winter. And I know they're usually even grown sometimes in the US. They're not coming from too far, but it's just like they're in like a greenhouse, or it just doesn't taste as good. Whereas when I go to the farmer's market now, I'll just buy a 3-pack of strawberries, and literally my kids will eat like 2 baskets of them right there on the spot, because who doesn't like strawberries? But yeah, strawberries, and Shelley's totally right. We're transitioning out of citrus season and then into strawberries, and pretty soon it'll be apricots, and then before we know it, it'll be all the plums and peaches and all that. I'll just give one more. Now my son is here. I'll just give one more plug for if you want to do something kind of fun for dessert. Go back and watch last year we did a spring cooking, Shelley and I made a really nice simple strawberry rhubarb compote. That's something you could put onto yogurt, you could put it onto granola, or eat it with your breakfast, or put it on waffles or pancakes. But for the person who asked the dessert question, that could easily be something like a nice simple dessert. You could just do some plain yogurt with some of that compo, and it's really, really easy. It's just strawberries, rhubarb, and water, really. That's kind of it. And rhubarb is a seasonal thing that's in season right now. So go back and watch that if you want. I did a whole thing on it. It's really easy to do, but yeah, strawberries, strawberries, strawberries. Enjoy them now.
Chop up fruit and add mint. That's really cool and fresh too. I like that.
That's right.
Very good. All right. Absent any other questions, thank you, Arash. Thank you, Shelley, once again. Thanks to our donors who make these programs possible, and thanks to those of you that attend and take interest in these presentations. As I mentioned, we've been recording this, and Arash is going to be sharing his recipe with us in a couple of days, and everyone who has registered for tonight's presentation will receive an email, hopefully before the end of the weekend, with all that I just mentioned. So thank you again, everyone. Have a good night, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Bye.
Shelley.
Bye, Arash. Bye, Franklin.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.